Low battery. Batería baja. Ni hama? A lot of people in the tech house community have been asking me how to make these 1/8 bass lines. And what they mean usually by 1/8 is that if you go into your grid and right click, you can set a 1/8 grid, and this bass is literally just 1/8 all the way. It's going to be in the scale of, according to my auto key MB port, F major, but I doubt it's that. There's a bit of chromaticness going on there. As you can see, I have the F major scale right now set up, and this note here doesn't belong there, so it could be a blues scale. I don't know, maybe there's some music theory expert watching this that can let us know the scale, but this is what we got. It's a very well-stacked, intricate bass, and we're going to be making this with Serum 2. I want to set my first bass line here, which is going to be my sub. I'm going to set it down to -2, so that way we get this tone. Now, the reason that I went with -2 here is because whenever I'm doing remakes for these kind of tracks, which for this one, it was an artist known as Tiger Blind. So if you guys want to check out the original, you can go ahead and do that. I ran it through a plugin known as Vision 4X. One of the interesting things about this one was that usually the bass will land somewhere down here, which is where it's around 30 to 60 hertz. But this bass is actually an octave up above that. So the sub is being played by 86 hertz instead of being down at 46 hertz, because every key will have a certain frequency that it's tied to. But this one decides to go up an octave. I don't know why, but they just do it. So we're going to follow that as well. We're going to run this sound through filter 1. And this is a beautiful thing about Serum 2 now, is that I have access to 2 filters that I can run in parallel. So this one, I'm going to click here and route it to filter 1. And all I want to do is get that tone. Like just like a sub, and get that tone right. From there, now we have to start stacking the top layers of this bass. And like I said before, this bass has a lot of layers, so don't fret. You know, with these tutorials, I don't want you guys to get exact. I want you guys to get around the ballpark so you can do your own thing with it or learn from that so that you can make bass lines that sound cool using the techniques that you learn here. Because at the end of the day, like I said, I'm your arms dealer. I need you guys to make bangers so that I can feed my kids. That's just the way it works. Your success is my success. So what I'm going to do is go into Spectral and find a waveform that I really like. And I'm going to set this waveform down to -3. And that's the crazy thing, right? This one's at -10, this one's at -3. But now in Serum 2, if I go into my warp section, Steve finally put in a filter that we can use here in order to remove any of the low end from this wavetable that might fight with this guy. Okay. From there, when I hear the sound, there's a very wide layer, right? Like the bass has a lot of depth to it. So props to them on that. But what I want to do is I want to increase the unison, lower my detunement. Now, the moment I increase my unison, there's more than one electric guitar wavetable coming out. There's 2 now, two of those. We instantly get stereo. Because traditional digital synths, we're going to be spreading the wave left and right. Okay, and we can change that here. We can put it down the center if you don't want it wide. Okay, the problem is, as you start to stack and detune, you can get those sounds to phase out because they're in the same position. So that's why most digital synths will spread it out for you. Okay. The more waves you add with unison, essentially you're just stacking waves, the more thicker the sound gets. I'm going to run this guy to filter 2, and the way I can do that easily is go filter 2, set C, and I'm also going to set B there. By default, that's going to be routed there, but if for some instance you want this one to go to both, then you can set it down the middle and vice versa, okay? But we want it going there. Same thing for oscillator A, which we're going to play with for a bit. From here, now this is where you can start to kind of dictate your own bass, right? We can add an envelope and move this guy and open this one. Okay, from here, I would generally say use your MG low or low filters here. The lower the number, the less strict. So the more high frequencies are allowed out. Here, if you don't like the tone of this, right, then what you can do is just switch the wavetable. Like so. And you can find different variations for it. Yeah, I'll go with this one just to continue the tutorial forward. But again, take your time with it and don't overthink it. I think it's better to just set something that you think sounds badass and move forward with it. Okay, so again, we have that. In that same song, there's another wave that comes in. And for this one, again, we're going to put this one at -1. Okay, again, we're going to use our high pass filter again to cut out lows. And if you really want to sound like chiptune, you can do that. Like so. And this one's more down the center. Okay. But again, play with it. You know, if you shake it more than twice, and maybe you're playing with it too much, but you know, you can use that in various ways, right? But you get the idea. Here we have now a very well stacked sound, which is a little weird, I understand, because this guy is providing all the low end. This guy, we put it below -2 because we can go further and we like the tone of it. And then we're cutting out the lows because the lows need to come from here. Main thing with this setup right now with the 3 oscillators is that it resembles the Moog Model D, which was a synth with three oscillators. And you know, I read this book by the sound designer known as Rob Pappen, who you guys can look up. Really dope dude, made a lot of great presets back in the day for some very iconic synthesizers. He generally doesn't want to stack waveforms at the same octave range, like -2, because the bass will phase out eventually, right? Because now you have 2 sounds taking up the same space, and when they overlap, if you've ever heard a resound is wow, wow. You get what we call beating, and when it comes to these kind of tracks, we don't want beating. You know, we don't do that here. We're Christians, right? I'm kidding, it's a joke, but you get the idea. You know, we always want the bass to constantly be there, so no need for that. So that's why we create layers like this. It's a very valid technique. It's not the one true method, but it's one that I can recommend you follow for bass lines to get them to sound heavier, more fuller throughout the spectrum, if and only if your track is very bass dependent. Okay, so now we're gonna have that. Okay. From there, it's time to hit it with effects. So as you guys, if you saw my last video, we have a splitter now inside of Serum 2. This allows us to split the frequency of the low end and the mids or the highs. I like to keep things simple with just lows and highs. And on the high end, I am going to add some distortion. From here, you can choose to go with any. Let's go with a stomp. We can also add an envelope to create something known as dynamic distortion or saturation. Okay. There we go. And then from there, we can also add an EQ, but I always choose to add an EQ after to everything because I just want to get the bass dialed in. But from there, here we have that. Again, pick your distortion, experiment. You don't go through many of them. Sometimes with the post too, I can remove some of the low end of the sound that might be brought in by distortion, because distortion will bring in frequencies that doesn't discriminate on which ones. So it's always kind of valid to go in and hit it with that. Notice that when I do this too, that we want to EQ the bass, and EQing the bass is going to be determined on your song. But let's say that I want to make this bass sound as good. Usually what I like to use is span. Now, a lot of people talk smack on span. I choose to disagree with them because my motto, and the motto I teach many people, is use your ears first and verify with your eyes. I think that's fair to say. No need to like talk shit on span. I get it. It doesn't show the whole story, but I believe that it's a super useful tool for sound designers and producers. Again, the important thing is use the ears, and if something sounds off, verify with the eyes. So for instance, I'll go in. Everything seems pretty good on this bass. The question now is, do I want to amplify certain parts of it? Like maybe I just want more highs. Well, I can do that. Let's say that I feel maybe this 600 hertz. Actually, that sounds great. So I don't even want to touch that. So I'm actually going to boost that. It gives a nice little meat to the bass. And then let's see here. I'm going to hit this. And now turn off, hear it. Sounds rather cool. Sometimes I'll even add a compressor to it just to control like a bit of the dynamics of it. Like if I want it to hit harder, I will increase the attack to around 90, fast release. And see if I can get that smack. Go to my envelope 1, move it down. You know, just get it to smack. Overpronounce it with the compressor. Can also do the opposite, where I'll squash the bass so that way it sounds flat. Get rid of that da, 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 so I can do it that, but I'm just showing you guys there. But if I had to work on a song with this sound, where I would be happy with is probably not with the EQ like that or the compressor. I'd probably just be happy there and try to dial it in with this. Okay. Now, one last thing I want to touch on is what really separates, I think, beginner producers, intermediate, and advanced producers, and that is the evolution of a sound. You know, in tech house and in trance, whatever it might be, you can tell who's who and where they're at by the way that they evolve their songs. And one of the cool things about the song is how it progresses, right? It slows down, which again, you can slow down the BPM. You automate that down, and then you would automate it back up. In order to do an effect like that, I call it the Eric Pritz effect, a speed up and a slow down. There are various ways you can definitely do it, of course, you know, with an ARP and stuff, but it's up to you to decide. So for instance, here I can right click show automation and do that. And then a cool little technique. Let's say you're making your own sounds. You're like, I don't need you, Sand. Okay, that's cool. I'm just here, you know, in case you ever do. I can use a mod wheel, right? Let's say that I delete this guy. I can show you. We can use a mod to create a moment with the sound where maybe like we start to increase the release and the decay. This is a technique I learned from studying the great progressive house artist, where we start to elongate the sounds like this on decay and the release. Okay, and then as we do that, right, we open it. We can also remove the low end if needed here. And we start to run our mod on stuff that we think might sound cool, like a phaser for a little moment. You know, maybe a flanger can also be nice to do. And then back into it. Back to chugging along. So hopefully this video helps you guys out. If you find it useful and you want to support the channel, you can head over to evilsounds.com where you can find all of my sound design work. I make these sounds for the common producer, but you know, I know some people need social proof. So the big producers that have used those sounds include the likes of Alesso, David Guetta, Hardwell, Space 92, James Hype, Mal P, Deeper's Purpose, West End, Biscuits. I can go on. The list is big. I make these sounds for, again, people to just make the music they want. I'm an arms dealer, supplying you guys with badass sounds that hopefully you will be able to use to create some insane tracks, because in a world like the one we live in today, I know how valuable time is, and I want you guys to just get those ideas knocking out, get those songs out, and dominate. With that being said, you guys take care, and you guys have a great rest of your day.